Vera moved slowly through the dim corridors of the Orion Refuge Station, her footsteps echoing against metal walls. Pale light from flickering panels cast long shadows, making the hall seem emptier. This station was her home, though it felt like a hollow cage. Vera's skin glowed faintly, a sign of her rare gift. Her blue-green light pulsed with each breath, but few saw it as anything but strange. For years, she lived as an outcast because of her glow. As a hatchling, someone had left Vera at the station's entrance wrapped in a thin cloth. No parent claimed her, and the leaders took her in. They gave her a sleeping chamber and simple tasks. Even as they cared for her needs, they stayed distant. Some whispered that her glow brought bad luck. Others said she was an omen. Only the station librarian named Tellis spoke to her kindly. He shared stories of distant worlds that made Vera's eyes light up. Still, Vera felt lonely. She tried to join other children playing in the rec hall, but they ran when her skin lit up. She tried to talk to station workers, but they hurried past, thinking she was odd. So she learned to keep to herself. Each morning, she scrubbed floors and polished panels in the maintenance halls. At night, she carried crates to the storage bays. The work was simple, but Vera found comfort in its routine. Each task helped her forget the ache in her heart. Her only solace came from books in the station library. Vera would sit on a bench for hours reading stories of brave heroes and peaceful worlds. She read tales of unity between different beings and hoped she too could find a place to belong. As her eyes traced the printed words, she imagined her glow shining bright among friends who valued her gift. For those hours, the world felt warm and safe. Over time, Vera heard rumors of a human expedition on its way to Orion. Humans rarely visited this part of space. They were known for their curiosity and for making strict demands. Some colonies welcomed them, but many feared their nature. Vera learned that this crew was led by Captain Elena Reyes, a name spoken with respect in other systems. She wondered why a human captain would come to a simple refugee station. Still, she felt a flicker of hope that maybe this time would be different. Each morning, Vera moved to the observation deck at first light. She pressed her face against the panel and stared into space. Ships of all kinds drifted by, from supply vessels to freighters carrying refugees. But each time the docks opened and closed without a human face. Her heart sank a little more each hour, yet she refused to give up hope. When she heard that the human starship would arrive tomorrow, her pulse quickened and her glow seemed brighter. That night, Vera lay on her narrow bunk, staring at the pale ceiling. Memories of being alone pressed on her chest like a heavy weight. Still, the thought of meeting a human captain filled her with warmth. She washed her only set of clothes until they were spotless and hung them to dry. She practiced standing tall in her small quarters, imagining how she would look before the humans. Would they laugh at her glow or see something special? She had no answer, but she resolved to try. The next morning, Vera rose before dawn and slipped through silent hallways toward the docking bay. The great doors stood open and the platform looked empty in the light. Doubt crept into her mind. Maybe the humans would arrive next week or never. She stepped back, her glow dimming with disappointment. Then, a deep hum filled the air. Vera's heart raced as a sleek human starship descended, its engines glowing bright. She watched as human crew members stepped out, their uniforms neat under the station lights. For a moment, Vera held her breath. She stood at the edge of the docking bay, invisible to workers who prepared to unload cargo. A human officer glanced at her glowing skin and frowned. Another looked away. But then a gentle voice called, "Excuse me, miss. Can you help us with the station layout?" Vera's heart leapt. That was her chance. Her heart felt light, as if a burden had lifted. She straightened and smiled, her glow steady and bright. As she led the humans across the platform, her light softened to match her calm voice. She did not know what lay ahead, but for the first time, she felt someone might see her for who she was. She walked on with new hope, ready to face whatever came next. Vera led the humans through the wide docking bay of the Orion Refuge Station, her pale glow guiding their steps. Each footfall echoed against the metal floor, and she could feel the curious eyes of station workers upon her. Most looked away quickly, unwilling to meet her gaze. Some whispered to each other as they passed, "Is that the strange one who glows? Or she'll cause a fuss if the captain sees her." Vera kept her head high, though her heart pounded. She wondered if her glow would startle the humans or make them turn away, as it had done so many times before. As Vera guided the human officer toward a terminal, she noticed a station supervisor named Brolic step forward. Brolic was tall and stern, with lines of worry etched on his face. He wore a uniform that marked him as one of the station's administrators. When he saw Vera's glow and the humans at her side, his lips tightened. "What is she doing here?" he whispered to a nearby worker. The worker shrugged. "She just appeared," they said softly. Brolic crossed his arms and approached Vera and the humans. "Excuse me," he began, looking at the human officer first, "but this is a secure area. Unauthorized personnel must not wander." His gaze flicked to Vera as though she were to blame. The human officer straightened and nodded politely. "We apologize for any disturbance. Our translator here said she could help us navigate the station. We are here to gather supplies and to speak with the administrator about refugee resettlement." Brolic's eyes widened slightly. He turned to Vera, his tone sharper. "You speak for them now? Who gave you permission to speak on behalf of the station?" Vera's glow dimmed as she felt the familiar sting of rejection. She swallowed hard and managed a calm voice. "I only wish to help. Without her guidance," the human officer said, pointing to Vera, "we would not know which terminal to use." The officer bowed slightly to Brolic. "This young one has shown kindness to us." Brolic huffed and stepped back. "Very well," he said, though his tone still carried a note of disapproval. He led them down a corridor to the administration offices. Vera followed on silent feet, her thoughts racing. She remembered how, as a child, she had approached Brolic once to ask about joining a work crew. Brolic had merely looked at her glowing skin and said, "We don't need a translator who confuses people with her light." Even then, his words had cut deeply, showing Vera that her gift was unwelcome. Now, as an adult, the same voice directed her to help these humans, and she felt both nervous and determined. Inside the administration room, Vera watched as Brolic explained the humans' request to a stern-faced council of officials. The room was filled with hollow screens displaying refugee logs and resource inventories. Counselor Amisa, an elder with silver-patterned hair, leaned forward. "Captain Reyes wishes to secure temporary housing for displaced families on board her ship. She expects our cooperation." Amisa's gaze shifted to Vera. "Is that correct, child?" Vera nodded. Her glow steadied and she answered, "Yes, Counselor. They have space for families who cannot stay here." Her words came out clear, without tremor, surprising her with their steadiness. The council murmured among themselves. Some frowned, worried about losing potential income from refugee fees. Others considered the positive attention from a human starship could bring more donations from nearby colonies. Brolic cleared his throat. "Her guidance was helpful in finding the correct data for loading supplies. I see no harm in granting this request." Vera's heart lightened. She remembered how often she had begged to have a voice in decisions, only to be told she did not matter. Now her knowledge and unique talent were acknowledged. Even so, her smile remained small, as she knew the acceptance might last only until the next time someone saw her glow. Once the council agreed, Captain Reyes stood and offered her hand to Vera. "Thank you, translator." Vera hesitated for a moment, then shook the captain's hand gently. The human skin was warm and firm. Vera felt a thrill of pride. She would not forget this moment. As she guided the captain back toward the dock, station workers lined the corridor. Some stared, others avoided her, but Vera walked on with a sense of purpose she had rarely felt before. Outside, the docking bay lights shone bright against the metal hull of the HMS Providence. Vera stood by the cargo hatch as workers unloaded crates and medical supplies. She checked each item against a list in her mind, reciting names of medicines and ration packs in the alien dialects she knew. The humans nodded in approval as she confirmed every detail without hesitation. One crew member, a young engineer named Taran, nodded and said, "Impressive. You know the station's systems better than most traders." Vera lowered her eyes, feeling a quiet pride. That evening, as the sun dipped below the planet's horizon, she helped load the final crates into the starship's hold. When her work was done, Vera walked back into the dim corridors of the station. Most lights were low, casting long shadows, and the hush of evening settled over the hallways. She paused by a window overlooking the open space, watching the human ship's engines glow softly. She thought of how, for one moment, she had felt valued. Yet the weight of previous rejections still pressed on her heart. She remembered the times when children had hidden from her and when adults had sent her away from gatherings. He whirled outside often seemed unable to see past her glow. As Vera made her way to the maintenance bay, she practiced the words she would say if Brolic or others asked why she helped humans. She would tell them that her glow allowed her to speak, for many who could not. She would insist that her gift was not a curse but a bridge between worlds. In the harsh light of the station's maintenance lamps, Vera cleaned a row of dusty vents. She scrubbed each grate, her glow paling slightly as her thoughts wandered back to her loneliness. Still, she held on to the memory of Captain Reyes's respectful nod and Taran's praise. For the first time, it felt possible that acceptance could come not from hiding her glow, but by embracing it. When her shift ended, Vera returned to her small chamber. She lit a simple lamp and sat at a table scattered with old books and translation notes. Though the station felt empty around her, her mind buzzed with new ideas. She planned to record the languages she knew into a single data file for the humans, hoping it might ease relations between different species. In the soft glow of her lamp, Vera traced symbols on a holopad and saw, for the first time, a path toward belonging. She no longer felt only the sting of rejection. She carried a spark of hope that maybe one day others would see her as special too. Vera woke before dawn the next morning, her pale glow dim against the soft light filtering through her small window. She dressed quickly in the simple tunic she had cleaned the day before. Even before reporting for her shift, she felt a flutter of excitement and nerves. Last evening, Captain Reyes had sent a small message to Brolic, asking for Vera's presence aboard the HMS Providence. Vera could hardly believe it. A human captain had chosen her, of all beings on this station, to join them. She took a deep breath and stepped into the corridor, determination shining in her every step. When Vera arrived at the docking bay, the Providence sat quietly against the platform. Its metal hull gleamed in the station lighting, and the air hummed with power. A ramp extended from the cargo hatch to the dock. 2 human crew members stood by its base. One was a tall woman with short hair and calm eyes, the other a small figure busy scanning a datapad. Both greeted Vera warmly when she approached. "Good morning, Vera," said the tall woman. "I am Lieutenant Arlen. Captain Reyes asked me to escort you aboard." Vera nodded and held her head high. She checked her breathing, ensuring her glow remained steady and soft. The human's polite greetings made her pulse quicken, but also filled her with pride. Not long ago, no one had even noticed her. Now she walked up the ramp onto a human starship. Inside, the corridors were wide and bright. Soft lighting lined the curved ceiling, and panels along the walls displayed star maps and status updates. Vera's glow cast gentle reflections on the polished floors as she followed Lieutenant Arlen. They walked past open grates that revealed conduits pulsing with energy. Vera could feel the ship's heartbeat through the floor. Her mind raced with wonder. She had read about human technology in Tellus's old books, but this was something different, alive with purpose. Arlen guided her to a small chamber near the cargo hold. Inside stood several humans gathered around a holoprojector showing maps of nearby star systems. Captain Reyes stood at the center, her uniform crisp and voice calm yet strong. When she saw Vera enter, a smile lit her face. "Vera, thank you for coming," Captain Reyes said. Her gaze was gentle and kind. "We need your help to communicate with the refugees who will arrive from Kalo 7 soon. They speak a dialect that we do not fully understand. If you can interpret their words and their fears, we have a chance to help them safely. Will you assist us? Vera felt warmth spread through her chest. She recalled her notes in the data file she had begun for human reference. I will do my best, Captain, she replied softly, her glow steady and soft. Captain Reyes nodded, then introduced Vera to the rest of her crew. There was Taren, the young engineer who had praised Vera the day before. He showed her a portable translator device and explained how to feed her language records into it. Another crew member, Dr. Selwyn, offered Vera a seat next to a table full of medical scanners and supplies. Vera's heart sank a bit with nervousness. She wanted to help, but feared making a mistake. Still, Arlen placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We all learn together, Arlen said. Take your time. After the introductions, Vera was shown to a small cabin near the ship's communications array. The cabin was modest, with a single bed, a desk, and a small viewport, overlooking the station below. Vera placed her simple belongings on the bed and sat at the desk, unfolding her hollow pad. On it were lists of words and phrases she had gathered from refugees who arrived last week. Words of hunger, fear, hope, and family. She studied them carefully, highlighting tonal shifts and inflections. Then she connected the translator device to her pad and began uploading her records as Lieutenant Arlen had shown her. Outside, the hum of the engines grew louder as the Providence prepared to depart. Vera could feel the ship change its power flows, readying for takeoff. Her glow pulsed slightly faster, matching the excitement in her heart. She glanced at her reflection in the small viewport. Her blue-green skin seemed brighter in the soft light of the cabin. For a moment, she remembered how others had recoiled from her glow. Now it felt like a beacon guiding her toward a new life. Soon, Lieutenant Arlen returned and said quietly, "It is time to launch. Come with me." Vera followed her down the corridor to the bridge. Inside, the crew was settling into their stations. Captain Reyes stood at the helm, her hands on a control console. "Welcome aboard, Vera," the captain said. "We are about to leave Orion Station. I want you to meet our navigator, Ensign Koro. He is from Kalos 7th and will help us understand the refugees better." Ensign Koro stood beside a star chart display. His skin was a dusky amber and his eyes held a cautious kindness. When he saw Vera, his expression brightened. "You must be the translator," he said in broken common, the lingua franca of this region. Vera bowed her head slightly. "I hope I can help," she replied in a soft voice. Koro handed her a small device that looked similar to the translator. "This will record their speech. Please listen and translate as best you can." Vera nodded and touched the device, feeling its weight and importance. With a low thrumming, the engines engaged. The Providence shuddered gently, then rose from the docking bay. Vera felt a soft pull in her chest as the ship lifted. She watched Orion Station recede below them, its lights blinking like distant stars. Part of her felt sadness leaving her home behind. Yet another part felt triumph. She was chosen, recognized for her gift. On the bridge, Captain Reyes addressed her. "Soon, we will reach Kalos 7 orbit. Be ready to translate anything the refugees say. They need kindness and clarity now more than ever." Vera nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing on her shoulders. As the ship sailed into open space, Vera moved to a small seat beside Ensign Koro. He began teaching her melodic rhymes from his home dialect, soft sounds and rises and falls, that reminded Vera of wind across desert dunes. She practiced repeating the phrases, feeling her glow brighten with each correct inflection. Koro smiled when she matched his tone well. "Very good," he said. "You already feel their language in your heart." Vera returned his smile, feeling confidence flow through her. That evening, the crew gathered for a simple meal in the ship's mess hall. Vera sat beside Taren, who recounted stories of his first engine repairs. Others joined, and soon laughter filled the room. Vera listened, amazed at how freely they spoke and shared. She realized that on this ship her glow did not cause fear. Instead, it made her stand out as someone special. As she ate, She thought of Tellus, the librarian who once showed her kindness. Vera wished he could see her now, among these humans, who accepted her. Later back in her cabin, Vera lay on her bunk, eyes closed. The gentle hum of the ship's engines lulled her to a peaceful state. Tomorrow she would meet the refugees arriving from Kalos 7. They would come with scars on their hearts. Vera prepared to give them words of comfort and to help them find safety. She felt her glow pulse softly one last time before sleep took her. As she drifted off, she dreamed of a future where her light would guide others toward hope and unity. The HMS Providence moved smoothly through the stars, its silver body shining against the darkness of space. Inside, the crew worked quietly, each member focused on the mission ahead. Vera stood near the communication console beside Ensign Koro. They were preparing for contact with the refugee shuttle from Kalos 7. The shuttle carried people fleeing war, families who had lost homes, safety, and hope. Captain Reyes stood at the front of the bridge, calm but alert. "The shuttle is 10 minutes away," she said. "Vera, once they hail us, I'll need you to speak with them first. Try to calm them. We don't know how afraid they might be." Vera nodded. Her heart beat quickly, but her face remained steady. She had practiced the Colossian dialect with Koro for hours. Still, she wondered if she would remember every word when the moment came. Her fingers gently touched the small translator on her belt. She whispered softly to herself, repeating key phrases. "You are safe. We are here to help. You are not alone." A soft beep sounded from the console. The shuttle was in range. Koro tapped a few buttons. "They're hailing us now," he said. Captain Reyes stepped back. "Vera, it's your turn." Vera took a deep breath and pressed the communication button. A fuzzy image appeared on the screen, blurry at first, then slowly clearing to show a worn, crowded shuttle interior. The passengers looked tired, some holding children, others clutching, bags close to their chests. In the center was a Colossian woman with tired eyes and a tense posture. Vera began to speak in the Colossian tongue. Her voice was soft but clear. "Peace to you. This is the Starship Providence. We are here to welcome you. You are safe now. We will guide you to rest." There was a long pause. The woman on the screen said something to someone behind her. Then, she leaned forward and replied, her voice rough from stress. Vera listened carefully. "They don't believe us yet," she told Captain Reyes quietly. "They are afraid we'll take their children or force them to serve." Reyes nodded. "Tell them they will not be harmed. Tell them we brought food, medicine, and warm beds." Vera turned back to the screen. She spoke slowly, using respectful words and calm tones. As she translated the captain's promise, her glow softened to a gentle blue. Colossians believed blue light meant honesty. The Colossian woman looked at the glow for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "We will follow," she said. Relief swept over the bridge. Vera smiled just a little and her shoulders relaxed. The refugee shuttle followed Providence into orbit. A few hours later, the first group of refugees stepped aboard. Vera stood at the entryway beside Taryn and Koro. As the family stepped through the airlock, Vera greeted each one in their language. Some were surprised to hear their own words spoken by someone glowing softly, but many smiled. Children stared at her light with wide eyes. One little boy reached out to touch her hand. Vera knelt beside him and said gently, "You are safe. No one will hurt you here." The boy nodded slowly. His mother, standing nearby, wiped tears from her eyes. Captain Reyes watched from a distance and turned to Lieutenant Arlen. "I don't think we could have done this without her," she said. "Her glow, it doesn't frighten them. It comforts them." As more refugees entered the ship, Vera worked non-stop. She helped translate questions, explained where to find food, and showed families to their sleeping areas. Though tired, she kept going, powered by the feeling that she was doing something important. Later that evening, Vera sat in the ship's medical bay beside an elderly Colossian man. He had hurt his leg while escaping the war zone. Dr. Selwyn treated the wound while Vera translated softly. The old man looked at her, then said something slowly in Colossian. Vera listened, then smiled. He says I remind him of the stars his wife used to paint on their ceiling, she told the doctor. He says my light is kind. Dr. Selwyn smiled. You are kind, Vera. After helping many more families, Vera finally returned to her cabin. She sat on her bed, exhausted but full of joy. For the first time in her life, her glow had not been a reason to hide. It had been a reason for others to trust her. A soft knock came at her door. Captain Reyes stepped inside, holding a warm drink. You did something beautiful today, she said, handing the cup to Vera. Those people came aboard with fear. Now they sleep in peace. You gave them that. Vera blinked, her eyes filling with quiet tears. I just spoke, she whispered. I only translated words. Reyes shook her head gently. You gave them more than words. You gave them comfort. Hope. That's a gift, Vera. You're not just useful, you're special. Vera looked down at her glowing hands, light softly pulsing in the dark. No one had ever said that to her before. Not in all the years she had lived on Orion Station, not even in dreams. Tears slid down her cheeks. She did not hide them. Thank you, Captain, she said quietly. That means everything to me. And as the Providence drifted through the quiet stars, Vera sat in her small room, glowing not just from her skin, but from the warmth inside her heart. The next morning, the HMS Providence floated quietly above Kalos 7. Sunlight from the nearby star reflected softly off its silver wings. Inside, the ship was full of life. Refugee families were resting, eating, and speaking in low voices. The air felt warmer, not just from the heaters, but from hope. Vera stood in the communication room reviewing messages from the surface of Kalos 7. The leaders of two different factions had agreed to speak with Captain Reyes. It was a rare chance. Both sides had been at war for years. No one trusted anyone anymore. But after hearing that Providence had taken in refugees without asking for anything in return, they were curious. Captain Reyes entered the room, her eyes focused but calm. Vera, she said, we're going to meet the leaders of Kalos 7 today. I want you with me. You understand their language. More importantly, you understand their feelings. Vera felt her heart beat faster. Me? You want me to speak with them? Yes, Reyes said, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. You've already helped so many. Now it's time to help more. For a moment, Vera didn't know what to say. No one had ever asked her to join a meeting like this before. Back on Orion Station, she had been ignored, pushed aside, or told to stay in the background. Now she was being invited to sit beside a human captain to help bring peace. She nodded. I'll do my best. Later that day, a small shuttle from Providence landed on the surface of Kalos 7. The planet was dry and windy, with golden hills stretching across the horizon. Old buildings, some broken from years of war, stood like silent watchers over the land. Vera, Captain Reyes, and two crew members stepped out onto the dusty ground. They were led into a simple stone hall where the two faction leaders waited. One leader, General Korath, was tall and strong, with silver hair and a hard expression. The other, Elder Melia, was smaller, with wise eyes and a tired voice. The room felt tense, like a storm was hiding behind the walls. Captain Reyes greeted them both respectfully and began speaking. Vera translated every word into the Colossian dialect with care. She watched both leaders closely, choosing words that showed peace, not power. We are not here to take sides, Reyes said. We are only here to help those who suffer. We believe peace is possible. General Korath frowned. You are strangers. Why should we trust you? Before Reyes could reply, Vera stepped forward. I was born without a home, she said softly in Colossian. No one wanted me. I lived alone for many years. But the humans did not turn away when I spoke. They listened. They showed kindness. That is why I trust them. Her voice was calm but full of truth. The room fell silent. Elder Melia looked at her for a long moment. "You are not one of us," she said, "but you speak like one. Who are you?" "I am Vera," she replied. "I glow because I was born different. I speak because I learned to listen, and I stand here not for power but for peace." General Korath leaned back, thoughtful. "She speaks from the heart," he said. "Not like the others who came before." Captain Reyes added gently, "We cannot change your past, but we can help shape your future. Let us be the bridge." The meeting continued for hours. Vera translated carefully, helping both sides share their pain and hopes. She noticed their voices became softer, their words more open. At one point, Elder Melia told a story about her lost grandson. General Korath listened without interrupting. That had never happened before. By the end of the meeting, both leaders agreed to a ceasefire. For now, it was not a full peace, but it was a start. Vera smiled. A small step could still be powerful. As they left the hall, the wind blew gently through the open doors. Vera looked out across the hills. The planet, once filled with anger, now had a new sound. Silence. A peaceful silence. Back on the Providence, the crew clapped when they heard the news. Terran even brought Vera a cup of sweet fruit tea from the kitchen. "You did it," he said with a grin. "You're amazing." Vera laughed softly. "I only spoke their language." "You spoke their hearts," Terran replied. That evening, Captain Reyes invited Vera to sit with her on the observation deck. Stars stretched across the black sky, shining like tiny hopes. "I've met many skilled translators," the captain said, "but you have something more. You listen, not just with your ears, but with your soul. That's rare." Vera looked at her hands, glowing softly. "Back home, people said I was a mistake, that I didn't belong." Reyes turned to her and said quietly, "They were wrong." Then, the captain said the words that Vera would never forget. "You are special." Vera froze. Her eyes widened. No one had ever said that to her. Not even once. Tears filled her eyes, and she quickly looked down. But she did not hide her face. She let the tears fall. They were not tears of sadness, but of release, of healing, of finally being seen. For the first time in her life, Vera believed it was true. She was special. The HMS Providence was quiet that night. The stars outside shone like silver lanterns, and soft lights glowed through the ship's long corridors. Vera walked alone through the passage near the observation deck, her mind full of thoughts. The words Captain Reyes had spoken earlier stayed in her heart. "You are special." She had heard many words in her life, most cold, some sharp, but never like that. Those 3 simple words warmed her like sunlight after a long winter. Even now, as she walked past the sleeping quarters and the softly humming engines, she felt different. Not because her skin glowed, not because she could speak many languages, but because finally someone had seen her for who she truly was. The next morning, Vera was woken by a soft chime on her cabin wall. A message blinked on her screen. Emergency Council meeting 0800 hours. All essential staff required. Vera quickly dressed and made her way to the central meeting room. When she entered, the mood felt serious. Captain Reyes stood at the front, arms crossed, looking at a map projected on the screen. Red lines showed battle zones across Kalos 7. Lieutenant Arlen spoke first. "There's been a sudden attack," she said. "A group of fighters broke the ceasefire near the southern zone. Refugees are trapped, and communications are down." Captain Reyes turned to the crew. "We must respond quickly. If we wait, they may be lost." Everyone looked tense. The mission of peace was at risk. The trust Vera had helped build could be destroyed in one day. "We'll send a ground team to help. Evacuate the refugees," Reyes said. "But the fighters speak an old dialect, hard to translate. We need someone who understands their language and can calm them before things get worse. Then she turned to Vera. I need you. Vera felt her breath catch. Me? You know. Their words. You understand how they think. If we go in shouting commands, they may fight. But if we go with calm voices, maybe we can save lives. Vera stood still for a moment. Fear crept into her thoughts. This was not like translating in a quiet room or guiding refugees with kind words. This was danger. But when she looked around the room, she saw the hope in the crew's eyes. They believed in her. She nodded. I'll go. Minutes later, she was in a small shuttle, flying toward the surface of Calo 7. Terran flew the ship, focused but calm. Koro sat beside him, checking scanners. Vera sat behind them, holding the small translator device close. Her glow was soft but steady. The shuttle landed near a broken shelter where frightened families were hiding. Smoke rose in the distance. Vera stepped out carefully, raising her hands to show peace. A few soldiers pointed weapons at her. She didn't move. Then she spoke in the ancient dialect. We come to help. We are not your enemy. The soldiers looked confused at first. One lowered his weapon. You understand our tongue? He asked. Yes, Vera replied slowly and clearly. We carry no weapons, only medicine, food, and safe passage. She stepped forward, still glowing gently. There are children inside. Let us take them to safety. No tricks, no lies. One of the fighters, an older man with tired eyes, stepped forward. They said you were just another outsider, he said. But your light, it feels like home. Vera bowed her head. My light is for all who wish for peace. The silence hung for a moment. Then the old man turned to the others and nodded. The soldiers stepped back. The children were brought out first, followed by families. Many had injuries. Some were crying. Vera guided them to the shuttle, one group at a time. Terran and Koro helped lift the weak aboard. The wind was strong, and the air smelled of smoke. But Vera stayed calm. She spoke softly to each person, reminding them they were safe now. Just before they took off, the old man approached her again. Why do you help us? He asked. Even when we scare others away? Vera looked at him with kind eyes. Because once I was alone too. I know what it feels like to be feared. But I also know what it feels like when someone says you matter. The old man smiled and placed a hand over his heart. Then your light is a gift. When they returned to the Providence, the medical team rushed to care for the injured. The crew clapped as the last refugee stepped off the shuttle. Vera stood to the side, quiet but proud. She had done it. She had helped save lives, not with weapons, but with words, and with kindness. Captain Reyes walked up to her and said, I knew you could do it. Vera smiled. I didn't think I could, but I remembered your words. Reyes nodded. Never forget them. You are special, and today you proved it to the whole galaxy. That night, as Vera looked out the window of her cabin, the stars seemed brighter than ever, not because they had changed, but because she had. She was no longer just a girl from the shadows of Orion Station. She was Vera, the voice of peace, the light in the dark, and her journey was only just beginning. The stars outside the HMS Providence twinkled like tiny lanterns in the dark sky. The ship floated calmly in orbit above Calo 7. Inside, the halls were busy but peaceful. The crew worked with steady hands and hopeful hearts. Refugees were resting, recovering, and sharing quiet stories. The storm of war below had calmed, even if just for now. Vera stood by the large window in the observation deck. Her glowing skin reflected softly against the glass. She watched the planet below, once filled with fear, now touched by hope. Her heart felt full. She had helped stop a fight, saved families, and brought two enemy leaders together, not with force but with understanding. Behind her, soft footsteps approached. Captain Reyes entered the room and stood beside her. It's a beautiful view, the captain said. Yes, Vera replied. I never thought I would see something like this. Reyes smiled. You helped make this view possible. Vera looked down, a small smile on her lips. I didn't do it alone. No, Reyes said gently. But it wouldn't have happened. Without you. There was a long pause as both looked out at the stars. Then Reyes turned to her. I have a question for you, Vera, she said. Vera looked at her, curious. We'll soon leave Callus 7 and continue our journey. We've been invited to help with peace talks on another planet. We need someone like you. Someone who listens with care. Someone who brings light in dark places. Will you stay with us? Vera's eyes widened. You want me to stay? On this ship? Yes, the captain said warmly. As part of our crew. Vera's breath caught in her throat. So many years she had lived in the shadows of Orion Station, unwanted and ignored. Now this ship, a place that had once been a dream, was offering her not just a role, but a home. I would be honored, she said, voice full of emotion. Captain Reyes reached into her pocket and pulled out a small badge. It had the symbol of HMS Providence, a star rising from darkness. This is yours now, she said, pinning it gently to Vera's tunic. Welcome aboard, Officer Vera. Tears filled Vera's eyes, not from sadness, but from something deeper, belonging. The next few days passed quickly. Vera received her own crew uniform. It was simple and neat, dark with a soft silver trim. Her name was written in small letters above her heart. She helped in many departments: language translation, refugee support, cultural lessons for the crew. Wherever she went, her gentle glow brought calm. Even those who didn't understand her words still felt comfort when she spoke. Children aboard the ship began to follow her in the halls, laughing and calling her Star Lady. She didn't mind. She smiled at them, answered their questions, and sometimes even told them stories from old books she had read back on Orion Station. One day she visited the ship's library, a quiet place filled with data scrolls and old printed books. It reminded her of Tellus, the old librarian who had once shared his stories with her. She found a book about distant galaxies and placed it on the small table. Then, she began to write her own story, a record of her journey. She wrote, I was once alone, glowing in the shadows. Now I am seen. Now I am heard. And now I walk with others, carrying light where it is needed. Before the ship left Kalos 7th, a small farewell gathering was held. Some of the refugees were being transferred to peaceful colonies. Others were joining the Providence to help with future missions. The two leaders of Kalos 7, General Korath and Elder Melia, came aboard briefly to thank the crew. They both shook Vera's hand. You spoke when no one else dared to, said Elder Melia. Your words built a bridge between us. General Korath added, You have shown us that peace is not weakness, it is wisdom. Vera bowed her head respectfully. Thank you. I only wish to help. As the visitors left, Vera stood at the docking bay door, her badge shining softly under the ship's lights. Later that night, Vera sat on the observation deck once again. She watched the stars move slowly past the windows. The hum of the engines was calm and steady. Beside her was a small plant, a gift from one of the children. Its tiny leaves glowed faintly in the dark, like her. She touched the glass and whispered, softly, I'm not just a translator, I'm not just the girl who glows, I'm someone who matters. For so long she had been searching for a place to belong. Now she had found one, not because she changed who she was, but because someone had looked at her and said, You are special. And from that one moment of kindness, a new future had grown. As the Providence sailed forward into the stars, carrying hope to new worlds, Vera closed her eyes and smiled. Her journey had begun in silence, but it would continue in light.